Elizabeth I, she regularly tops those polls as the greatest English monarch, but should she be there?
For over 400 years, Queen Elizabeth I has remained one of history's greatest mysteries. No direct descendants, no known remains to study, and secrets she took to the grave. But now, scientists claim artificial intelligence has uncovered genetic clues hidden in historical records. Clues that may reveal what was really happening inside the Queen's body. What they discovered challenges centuries of assumptions and raises a disturbing question. Was England's most powerful ruler slowly being destroyed by her own biology? Subscribe, because Queen Elizabeth I's greatest secret, hidden for over 400 years, will finally be revealed. The whitewashed Queen. This is where her infamous mask of youth was born. It wasn't vanity. It was a weapon of statecraft. Lacking the military prowess or physical intimidation of male kings, Elizabeth crafted an image of divine purity and eternal youth. Her main tool was a cosmetic paste called Venetian ceruse, a toxic cocktail of white lead and vinegar. She would layer it on her face, neck, and hands, creating a ghostly white complexion that was inches thick. You see, in the 16th century, pale skin was the ultimate status symbol. It meant you didn't toil in the sun. You were a member of the elite. But for Elizabeth, it was so much more. This white mask erased any sign of age, weariness, or human imperfection. In public, she appeared ageless, an almost supernatural figure who was above the decay of normal life. The most shocking fact is that her reliance on this mask intensified dramatically after 1562. That year, a vicious bout of smallpox nearly ended her life. She survived, but the disease left her face permanently scarred. From that moment on, the layers of Venetian ceruse grew thicker, the illusion more critical. Courtiers whispered that her makeup was nearly an inch thick in her later years, giving her the appearance of a living statue. But not all things are what they seem. What many overlooked was that this lead-based paint was a slow-acting poison. Every day, the toxic metal was seeping into her skin, silently attacking her from the inside. It's a chilling thought. The very thing she used to project strength was slowly destroying her body. Elizabeth's control over her image was absolute. In an era without photographs, royal portraits were the primary form of propaganda. She was obsessed with how she was depicted. Only portraits showing her as young, regal, and flawless were permitted. In a move that shocks historians even today, in 1596, she issued a royal decree ordering all unflattering portraits of her to be found and destroyed. Artists were given approved patterns to work from, ensuring that the Queen's public face never aged a day. The most famous example is the Darnley portrait from 1575, which became the template for countless others. Even in her 60s, official portraits showed her with the smooth skin of a 20-year-old. She had successfully created an immortal queen, a powerful myth that held her kingdom together. But underneath the paint and the pageantry, her body was keeping a terrible score. That perfect mask was also a gilded cage. The slow collapse. As Elizabeth neared her 70th year, the grand illusion she had so carefully upheld throughout her life began to fall apart. To her subjects, she remained Gloriana, the Virgin Queen who had defied the powerful Spanish Armada and presided over a golden age. She was a living myth, appearing untouched by the damage of passing years. What no one ever mentioned, though, was that beyond the palace walls, the Queen herself was fading away. She was physically weak, mentally drained, and burdened by a deep sense of grief that no level of authority could mend. The world she once knew was gone, Nearly all of her trusted companions and advisors had died. William Cecil, her loyal chief minister for 4 decades, was no longer alive. Her spy master, Francis Walsingham, had been gone for years. Losing her ladies-in-waiting, women who had stood beside her since childhood, left her painfully isolated. But the spirit that haunted her most was Robert Devereux, the Earl of Essex. He had been her dazzling, reckless favorite, a man she loved with intense, almost motherly devotion. Yet his ambition overwhelmed him. In 1601, he launched a reckless, doomed uprising against her. Elizabeth, the monarch, had no option but to authorize his execution. Essex's death was a political necessity, but for Elizabeth, the woman, it was a wound that never closed. Sir Robert Carey, her cousin, recorded that during her final year, the Queen would sit in darkened chambers crying over Essex's fate. She was also overheard expressing regret for the execution of her cousin Mary, Queen of Scots, an act that had occurred nearly 20 years earlier. The strong-willed ruler was now sinking beneath overwhelming sorrow. This emotional collapse sparked a dramatic physical decline. What many failed to notice was that her famous love of sweets had finally taken its toll. With a sugar-heavy diet, rare for the era, her teeth had rotted into darkened remains. Painful infections formed in her gums, making eating or speaking a torment. Her glands became swollen, and her hair, once her proudest feature, had thinned so severely that she depended entirely on wigs. Then there was the poison. Years of coating her face with lead-based ceruse had exacted a devastating price. Her skin developed a dull gray hue. Sores appeared across her body, and she lived in a constant state of exhaustion. Long-term lead poisoning was slowly shutting down her body. To put it plainly, her behavior grew disturbing. The once lively and sharp-witted Queen slipped into long stretches of silence, refusing to speak for days. She dismissed her physicians, batting away every attempt to treat her. She no longer allowed her ladies-in-waiting to wash or dress her. In her final weeks, she refused to lie down, choosing instead to spend hours, sometimes more than 15 a day, standing or sitting still on cushions stacked across the floor. Her attendants believed she feared that if she lay down, she would never rise again. The illusion of youth had collapsed, exposing a woman overwhelmed by pain, both physical and emotional. Trapped inside her failing body, she endured her suffering completely alone. The Queen was slipping away, and her body was sending terrifying warnings. A kingdom held in silence. During the cold, damp days of March 1603, Richmond Palace became a place filled with muted voices and anxious looks. Queen Elizabeth I, the unshakable center of England for 45 years, was clearly nearing her end. Yet her frightening strength of will endured. She refused to name an heir, refused to confront her own death, and by doing so trapped her entire court within her silence. On March 24, 1603, at roughly 2 o'clock in the morning, the end finally arrived. The Queen died not with a final decree or a meaningful last word, but in a deep and disturbing silence. The official cause of her death was never documented because, in one of her final displays of control, she had firmly forbidden a post-mortem examination. Her body was meant to remain an enigma. The news moved through the kingdom like a sudden shock. Many people had never lived under another ruler. Elizabeth was England. Her death signaled the close of the Tudor dynasty, a royal line that had shaped the nation for more than 100 years. The transfer of power was mercifully calm. James VI of Scotland, the son of her former rival Mary, Queen of Scots, was swiftly declared King James I of England, joining the two crowns. Yet even as a new chapter began, the strange nature of Elizabeth's death sparked widespread speculation. The emptiness she left behind was soon filled with dark rumors and conspiracy theories. One of the most shocking and enduring tales came from one of her own ladies-in-waiting, a woman named Elizabeth Southwell. Southwell, who later became Catholic, claimed that weeks after the Queen was laid to rest in Westminster Abbey, her body, swollen with foul humors, burst apart inside its lead-lined coffin. The rupture was said to be so forceful that it released a poisonous vapor that spread throughout the church. For centuries, this was dismissed as Catholic propaganda, a grotesque story meant to damage the legacy of the great Protestant Queen. Yet, people have always been drawn to such stories, and history is filled with them. The most unsettling detail is that modern science recognizes this phenomenon, exploding casket syndrome. It is a rare but real occurrence in which gases from decomposition build up inside a sealed coffin until it breaks open. Southwell's account may have been more than a cruel fabrication. Another troubling detail from her final days involves her coronation ring. She had worn it for 45 years as a symbol of her bond to her kingdom. As her health declined, her body swelled, and the ring began to cut deeply into the flesh of her finger. It became so firmly embedded that her doctors were forced to file it off, an act that greatly distressed the dying queen. This suggested serious circulation issues, likely organ failure. But without an autopsy, all anyone could do was speculate. Was she poisoned by enemies eager to see James crowned? Did she simply surrender, refusing food to hasten her death? The Queen carried her secrets to the grave, leaving behind a mystery that has endured for 4 centuries. For hundreds of years, no one had the means to uncover the truth. Until now. The Code of a Queen. For 400 years, Queen Elizabeth I's last secret remained locked inside the marble quiet of her tomb at Westminster Abbey. Her body rested untouched, her questions unanswered, and her legend beyond challenge. But in a groundbreaking television event, Sky History's Royal Autopsy, a group of world-class specialists did what was once unimaginable. They carried out a modern virtual autopsy on a monarch dead for over 4 centuries. Using technology that would have seemed like sorcery to the Tudor court, they aimed to uncover how one of history's most powerful rulers truly died. Guided by Home Office pathologist Dr. Brett Locker and renowned biological anthropologist Professor Alice Roberts, the team approached Elizabeth's death as if it were a fresh investigation. Every fragment of evidence, letters, witness reports, portraits, even the chemical composition of her makeup, was reanalyzed with today's forensic methods. Their mission wasn't only to identify the cause of death, but to reveal the reality behind the myth of the Virgin Queen. What they uncovered was far more startling than any plot theory. Dr. Locker started with her mouth, an unusual place to begin a royal case, yet it became vital. By rebuilding her dental health from courtier descriptions and portraits from her later years, he confirmed what had long been rumored. Elizabeth's teeth were in dreadful condition. Rot had ravaged her gums, and several major abscesses were likely decaying her jaw from the inside. He explained bleakly that every word she spoke, every bite she took, would have caused pain. Without antibiotics, such infections could become fatal. Bacteria from an abscess can enter the bloodstream, causing what modern medicine calls sepsis, a slow, unseen killer beyond Tudor knowledge. Then came the second critical clue, her makeup. Professor Roberts analyzed samples of the notorious Venetian cirrus, the bright white foundation Elizabeth used daily for years. Lab tests confirmed it held dangerously high levels of lead carbonate, a cosmetic that doubled as a gradual poison. The Queen's carefully maintained mask of pale perfection was slowly harming her. Roberts connected the evidence. Long-term lead poisoning could explain Elizabeth's late-life symptoms: hair thinning, tremors, exhaustion, mood changes, and memory loss. Her vanity, or rather the image she was required to maintain as an almost divine ruler, was destroying her from within. The very substance that defined her image, Roberts said, was ending her life. But as the team rebuilt her final weeks, the facts suggested something even more complicated. Courtiers described the Queen's last days as eerie and deeply disturbing. Her body was bloated, her fingers swollen, and she refused to lie down as if afraid of sleep itself. Some reports claimed she sat still for hours, staring blankly, whispering to herself. Was it delirium from infection, or something deeper? Something science alone couldn't fully explain? That's when the more extreme theories returned. Some historians have long suspected Elizabeth's body was turning against itself, the result of years of mercury exposure from treatments used to lighten her skin. Mercury poisoning can resemble madness, shaking hands, paranoia, hallucinations. Could the Queen's mind have been breaking under the chemical assault of her own beauty routines? Others suggested a rare autoimmune disorder, possibly lupus, which might explain the rashes and fatigue noted by her servants. Still, others believed she suffered a slow thyroid collapse, worsened by years of pressure, poor nutrition, and sleeplessness. And then there were the darker rumors, the ones the royal autopsy stopped short of fully supporting. Some conspiracy theorists argue Elizabeth fell victim to a courtly cover-up. According to one idea, her lead poisoning wasn't accidental. In her final years, surrounded by younger courtiers and power-hungry nobles, she grew increasingly alone. The legend of Queen Elizabeth I will endure forever. But now we understand the devastating human cost behind the myth. What do you think is the most shocking part of her story? Does knowing the truth change how you see her? Was her remarkable strength also her greatest weakness? Share your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more hidden stories from history.